So my question to you is, why must the state get bigger every year? Why does the government expand every year? This morning I was watching the Sunday morning talk shows, and everyone was talking about Paul Ryan's budget proposal and how it's cutting this and cutting that. The thing is, the government still grows every year. The government's not getting smaller, even under Chairman Ryan's proposal. And Geithner was on, I guess it was Meet the Press or whatever. And I love that they had to interview him in Geithner's office. He couldn't come down to the studio. He had to come to me. He talked about how we can't do these cuts because it'll gut Social Security and gut Medicaid and Medicare and so on and so on and so on. And of course, he says nothing about the fact that both he and Bernanke together have sought to inflate the economy and decrease the value of every dollar in your pocket and completely jack you of your spending power. And no mention of this. But one can't be surprised at that. I mean, he's never going to say that. Remember, this is a Treasury Secretary that cheated on his taxes. Anyway. But the point is, as I sat and watched the roundtable discussion, it struck me how much of a disconnect there really is in Washington. Now, what was interesting is it was an interesting roundtable. Tavis Smiley, I think, was on there with Chairman Greenspan and the senator from Utah, who's calls himself Tea Partier and so on. It was an interesting mix, but they still the reality of the situation that we have this giant demographic huge problem in the baby boomers retiring. Okay, this is going to put in an incredible strain on our system. Is not being addressed. I mean, we are under immense strain right now, and the baby boomers just started retiring this year. What's going to happen when the rest of them start retiring? These guys are going to take money out of the stock market. All right, we're going to have to pay more out in Social Security, which means people in their prime earning years are going to be paying higher payroll taxes or higher taxes. This is a huge problem. And the answer to me, it seems, is that we must roll back the state. We have to make government smaller. Not just talk about it, not Reagan, a morning in America, and, talk about reducing the size of government, but really expanding it. I mean, get it smaller. All right? I don't see why we can't cut government across the board by 1% every year. I don't know, for the next 50 years. Or something. Just something. Just so that the tide, instead of going out, comes back in. And then, our fiscal situation would look a lot better because we would have a lot more credibility in the world markets. Right now, the only thing that is holding our debt situation together is that we basically, in order to do business in the world market, you got to have a lot of dollars for a number of reasons. Even now, you got to have dollars. But if that goes away, we're going to have a real problem. And the clock is ticking, okay? We have the world reserve currency, all right? So in other words, if you're going to do business, if you're going to buy and sell oil, you have to do it in dollars, all right? Well, a lot of emerging countries are sick of that situation. Why should they buy? Essentially, they need to get dollars in their hands so they can buy oil. Well, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to buy the oil in reals or rubles or yuan or euros even? I mean, it would make a lot more sense for them. Anyway. The point is, we are in a very precarious situation that I don't think a lot of people in power recognize yet. And I'm afraid that they may not recognize it until it is too late. So we have, I believe, that the big turning point potentially for this country. Kind of, we're all kind of talking about how there could be a real nasty thing happen to this country economically if we don't do something about it. Of course, we're not really doing anything yet about it because there isn't the political will, and there isn't the will frankly, from the American people to let our leaders do what they need to do, even if they probably wouldn't do it anyway. But frankly, it's on us because we punish them. People, a lot of older folks who vote, like, don't take my Social Security or whatever. Don't mess with that. We'll vote you out, and they're afraid, and that's understandable. Um, but we have a window of time here now to the point where the dollar loses its reserve currency status, world reserve currency status. If we can get our house in order before that pressure, that situation comes, we can essentially get ourselves together, reduce the size of the state, reduce corporate taxes. I know a lot of people won't like that, and make this country more competitive again in the world stage. If, however, we continue to dicker over these legacy entitlements and so on. I hate that term, entitlement, but if these budget outlays until the reserve currency goes away and people don't need our dollars anymore, so they're not going to buy our debt anymore, well, what happens? Brazil, China, Russia, Europe, South Africa, Australia, even Canada, they go on about their business. And we have essentially a currency crisis. And frankly, nobody wants to go through that. It would be awful for everyone. So the only answer to this, I believe, is to systematically reduce the size of government for real. Rein it in on all levels. Defense, everything. If we do that, we have a chance of making the 21st century kind of the American Renaissance century. It's very possible. We have lots of bright people who are committed to good things. But we better do it. We better get our act together now and start leading. Somebody's got to start leading, and I think it's going to have to be the people. So anyway, for Liberty and Economics Review, I'm Nick Sorrentino. Thanks.